Hi guys, I'm Kim,
And I'm Abby.
And I'm Emma.
and this is
Calabasas.
Cultura. Hi guys.
Hi.
This
Hey.
is literally like our regular schmegular show with Emma. Like, she's gonna be a part of the introduction because let's be honest here, like she's a part of the show.
I'm
Emma, how are
back.
you? Yes, how are
We
you
always forget to
doing?
tell her, like, do it at this time. We just expect everybody to, like, look over.
Literally, how many times, and we talk about this every single time for every single person that comes in, of like, yeah, like we do our introductions and our like outros like 5 times because we don't say anything, we just stare and we're just like,
Hmm.
you don't know? Okay. Emma, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's like there's like a nice little sunset going on right now.
Yes.
I've got like three different spells going on in the background.
Hell yeah.
We're
Every single
having
time
we're
I
having
see
a
that
great Friday
candelabra, I'm
night.
like, good. Abby, how are you doing, baby?
I'm good. How are you, Kim? I just
I'm
been
so
chilling.
Yeah, I'm so good. I just officially posted my first classes on like my
Woo.
website and everything, and I'm really excited. My tarot classes,
Yay.
and I'm super super excited. So I just did that right now. So I'm just silently like pooping my pants of fear and excitement at the same time. IBS girlies, you know what's up,
We
but
know.
yeah, literally. But yeah, it's been a day, but I'm super excited to chat more with you, Emma. Like we kind of started this conversation today without any kind of structure, any kind of questions, because I feel like Abby said it best earlier that this is such a broad topic that I feel
Hmm.
like we just have to go with the flow, and that's all
Totally.
about astrology. So for
Yay.
the people that don't even know what that means, Emma, what's astrology?
Oh my God, what a question.
What a fucking question.
Astrology. I don't even know how to answer this, right? What a crazy question. Astrology is essentially like the study of the stars and the study of the planets and the study of how those things interact in our life. The basis of astrology for most practices of astrology, there's a lot of different branches and a lot of different things, but mostly you're looking at a snapshot of the sky, whether that's within your natal chart or that's within like an electional chart or a horary chart. Like you are snapshotting the sky and then you're looking at that and you're integrating what that means and how that interacts in your life. It's very as above, so below, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so interesting. I have like Abby has explained so much because while Abby won't say it, she is incredible with astrology
She
and has learned.
is. She totally is.
Yeah, but she is,
Hmm.
and she'll explain certain things to me, and I'm just sitting here like, so my
Yeah.
sun sign is a
No,
Libra.
I feel like I understood my chart, but then when Emma read mine, I was like, now this makes sense. And she like gave me something to do with it. Like, didn't just give me like information.
Yes.
Mm,
So we
yeah.
talked about this. So sorry.
No, go ahead.
We talked about this a little bit in previous episodes that we did a mentorship meeting with Emma where she went through our kind of astrological chart and kind of broke it down a bit. And so we're going to talk about it a little bit today, kind of it's like a free service. We're going to pick her brain a little bit more, but also to kind of
Yes.
we'll be the guinea pigs for you guys to understand a little bit of how we look at charts. And when I say we, I mean Emma, because I was just sitting there looking pretty while she was explaining stuff. But I know Abby had a lot of really cool questions specifically about hers. If you wanted to start, Abby.
Okay, yes. Um, I don't like I just keep on thinking like like the whole time like you were talking in the beginning, I feel like I was like laughing like to myself because I'm just a freak. But anyway, I was thinking like we've been talking about vampires so much. Emma, if you had to say, what would a vampire's like big three be?
Oh my God, what a good question. Okay.
I love
I
this.
gotta think about it. I gotta think. Okay, well, initially, obviously, Scorpio rising. Like, I totally so
Hmm.
okay. So I think because we're talking about astrology through this like astrology 101 lens, I'm gonna be really like I'm gonna try to explain a lot of what I say and why I'm saying it. And if I ever don't, you guys just be like, what does that mean?
Got you.
But so okay, your rising sign is like how people perceive you. So I think like Scorpio, there's like this dark,
Yeah.
mysterious, sexy, like that is so
Very
vampire
Edward Cullen.
aesthetic.
Yep.
Exactly. So Scorpio rising. I feel like a lot of vampires are like they're really like determined, they're dedicated, they got a mission, whether that's just like to get some food, to get a conquest. Like they're really like they're dedicated. So I'm thinking like a cardinal sign. I could see it being a Capricorn, I could see an Aries. I feel like it depends on what kind of vampire we're talking about, right? But
So
I
what
feel
is
like
cardinal? I never like
yeah,
really
so
looked into that. But
totally,
it's
that's a
something
great
to do with the
question.
elements, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so every element has a cardinal, mutable, and fixed sign. And the cardinal signs represent the start of a season. So all the cardinal signs are aligned with the equinoxes and the solstices.
Mm.
So Aries is, we move into Aries season on the spring equinox. So Aries is a cardinal sign. And then following Aries, the next cardinal sign would be Cancer, which we move into on the summer solstice. So then in on the fall equinox we move into Libra season, and then of course on the winter solstice we move into Capricorn season. So all of the signs that we transition into on the day of the quarter points of the year, the solstice and the equinoxes, that would be a cardinal sign. And then
Mm.
we have following the cardinal signs, we have the fixed signs, which are like in between the essentially like the fixed sign is the middle of the season. So starting
Okay.
again with like going through the zodiacal wheel, like we start spring with Aries season, and then in the middle of spring we have Taurus season, and then to end spring and transition out we have Gemini, which is mutable. So you're always following this cycle of cardinal, fixed, mutable within the zodiacal wheel, and then each of the elements has one of each. So you're going to have a fixed, a mutable, and a cardinal sign in every single element.
So this is
That's
my
so
question,
cool.
and it's
Yeah.
more like the conspiracy of our zodiac signs changing. Like a
Mm.
decade ago, they were like, "Oh yeah, Libras are not Libras; it's all moved." Do we believe
Yeah.
in that? No,
So
we don't.
personally, I don't like subscribe to that paradigm.
Mm.
I have like I will say I haven't looked into it a lot because I'm also just kind of like not interested.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Mhm.
I the type of astrology that I practice is Hellenistic astrology. So I'm not really interested in like Hellenistic astrology is older astrology. It's like in the past. Like I am like interested in how people used to work with astrology back in the day because astrology used to be much more of a part of everyday life and like also
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
politics and like just
And food,
worship, like
like
it
it
was just
still
much
is
more
really with food.
integrated. Yeah, it was so much more integrated than it is now, even though like astrology is like really like popular and like it's a part of pop culture. Like it was taken so much more seriously back in the day, and so I'm really
Yeah.
interested in looking at astrology in the past. And so this is like a more modern progression of science, which I think there's validity to. I'm not saying it's not true, but I just am not interested in that for my paradigm. And I've honestly have never really heard like an astrologer talk about that. Like I really only ever heard it
Mm.
personally, and this is not to say that astrologers don't talk about it, but like the astrologers that
Yeah.
I look up to, learn from, like they don't really talk about that. That's more of like I feel like it's kind of clickbaity, honestly. But there is something which I'm going to preface this by saying I don't know anything about it, but it's like on my list of things I want to be researching. It's something that came up a lot when I was at NORWAC, which is an astrology conference that I attended this year. So there's something called progress charts. And essentially, my understanding, again, really don't know. This is a new topic for me that I'm going to be diving into, is that like as you have like a solar return chart, like there are different signs that like progress. I don't know, but essentially it is the idea that like your signs change. And this is something that astrologers talk about. It's a whole technique, there's a whole thing around it, which I am unaware of because even though I know about astrology, there's so much to learn and I don't know everything. And there's also so many different branches. But so there is
Yeah,
something.
there's a lot of them.
My
where
Libra self
signs
is in
change.
Delulu land, and I will stay Libra for the rest of my life.
So I don't think it's looked at as like, okay, you're not a Libra anymore. It's like, okay, in your progress chart, you are now um what's after Libra? Scorpio, right? Am I
Scorpio.
Scorpio? Yeah. So it
No,
would be like in
Scorpios
your
are
progress
Oh,
tricky.
chart, you're like a Scorpio sun or something, and like what that is like for like a certain time period. It's not like forever. It's interesting. I want to know more about it.
Interesting.
I want to know more, and I don't fully know. I just made a new friend who is an astrologer who's really cool, and like we did like this little study session, and like I was like asking him, I'm like, what's a progress chart? And he was like, I'll send you some resources. Because again, like there's so many different things, and like everyone has their thing, you know? Like, and so he's
Yeah.
like, that's not my thing, but like I can send you some resources on it.
So that was my next question because, like, we started this conversation with the emphasis of astrology is so vast. Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
different structures, there's different types, there's different ways that we read the skies, read the night sky if we want to get a little poetic. What's, I guess, for someone who doesn't understand astrology at all and is just
Mm-hmm.
trying to gain a little bit more insight on kind of who they are and what their lives look like? Because I mean, I know I look at like the north and the south node. I know that I try
Mm-hmm.
to examine like where my Venus is and where like what my different houses are in my chart. What is the best way to kind of go about that in such a very basic way?
That's a good question. I guess it depends a lot on like what your knowledge level is, what your capacity is, and also like what you want to get out of it. Like, do you
Yeah.
want to learn about astrology or do you just want to learn about yourself? Because I think that there are ways in which you can use astrology to learn more about yourself that don't require you to actually learn all this language, you know? Like, if you get a reading with an astrologer or someone who uses astrology in their sessions, they should be able to communicate to your skill level and your interest level. Because a lot of people want to know about growth and self-reflection but don't have the capacity or the interest in learning about astrology, and that's totally valid. I think that you can still interact with astrology and get so much out of it without having to learn it all. So I think that if you're just interested in learning about yourself, I think that like, you know, she's super popular, but genuinely is an amazing resource. Chani Nicholas is like her life work, in my opinion. Not that I think she would say this, but honestly, like in my opinion, her life's work is like bringing astrology to the masses. You know, like she is so good at like talking about astrology in a way that's really palatable, talking about it without bringing in a lot of technique, which like is really great when you're getting started. I feel like I have learned so much from her content. I like have been a fan and listener of Chani like for maybe like 7 or 8 years now. So before she even had her app, which she does now, which is like very accessible. So her app is free. There's so much on there. And then my cat's leaving. You can subscribe for, you know, this is not sponsored. You can subscribe for like, you know, a certain amount of money a month and then like you get more personal things. So she kind of does two different things. She does what would be called mundane astrology to a certain degree. Again, it's like for the masses, but what essentially what mundane astrology is like astrology about the world at large, astrology about like politics, like global astrology. So her weekly podcast that you can get through the app or just like through her podcast channels is talking about how the astrology of each week is affecting the world at large. And then if you were to subscribe to her app, you're also getting a reading each week about how that astrology is falling for you personally in regards to your chart. And she's also a Hellenistic astrologer, so within that, she's looking at essentially what houses the astrology is happening for you. And Hellenistic astrology uses whole sign housing. So if you put your rising sign, if you put your birth chart in and you put your rising sign in, that's why she's able to give these mass personalized readings, is because we're looking at the houses in a whole way. So every person like that has a Sagittarius rising like I do is getting the same weekly reading, but it's still resonating because the place in which your chart that the astrology is hitting is resonant. Does that make sense? Am
That
I
makes
throwing
so
too
much.
many words out there? Is
No,
that
that
okay?
makes so much sense. And so
Yeah.
I think that that honestly answers so many questions of like how there are in like on Instagram and TikTok, how there are these mass kind of for someone with this type of chart, this is kind of the vibe of the year or of the few months,
Yeah.
because it is very much like whole sign. Like if you want something a bit more specific, would it then be Hellenistic astrology, or are there other specific kind of tiers or categories for that specificity of like half houses? Or does it count? Is it a half house and a quarter house? Like what does it look like?
So
What the hell is
essentially,
that?
I
I
have no
never
clue.
heard of
I
that.
made those words just came out of my,
Oh,
those words are
oh.
bullshit. I have no clue.
no,
Mhm.
It's
no, there's
more
there's truth to what you're saying. I mean, you wouldn't
oh
call it a half house, but there's truth to what you're saying is essentially like the Hellenistic astrology is like astrology from the Hellenistic period. And there are certain things that are specific to that type of astrology, such as whole sign housing, such as chart sect, which is like if you hear ever people talking about a day chart or a night chart, that
Mhm.
is something that is specific to Hellenistic astrology. Something like time lords is another specific technique. So Hellenistic astrology is this like full and vast system of astrology that has so many things within it, whole sign being the way in which the chart is organized. So essentially you have the astrological wheel, and it is 12 signs in the wheel, and we can pull up a chart too at some point to like look at if that's helpful, but like
Give
essentially with whole
me, give
sign
me,
housing
give
we
me.
totally can, we totally can, but essentially with whole sign housing you are cutting the pie, the astrological pizza pie, equally. Each house is equal, you know, and that is a way of looking at the house system. Is whole sign housing is a way of looking at the house system. There are other house systems such as Placidus, which is really common for modern astrology. Campanus is another one. There's a lot. There's so many. Those
yeah.
are like the most popular in my that I'm aware of. There's also sidereal, which is like I believe ancient Egyptian. So there's, depending on what type of astrology and what type of approach you're taking, there's going to be certain techniques that are within that. And then part of that is going to come with the way the house system is organized. So it's not that if you want something more specific, you're going to go to a different system. It's more
Mm,
that whatever system resonates with you is what you're going to go from. And some people, like you're saying online, do use whole sign housing, which is why they can speak to this. Other people don't. And they're just kind of doing their own interpretations based off of like sun sign or rising sign. You know, each kind of system is going to think other things are really important, right? Like Hellenistic astrology really emphasizes the rising sign, but other forms of astrology emphasize other things. So it's really like essentially coming from what type of system you want. And if you don't know anything about astrology, you're not going to know anything about this. Essentially, you're just going to find someone who you resonate with what they're saying, who you like, who they are, you like the way that they talk about astrology, like their relationship to astrology, you feel that it resonates with you. And then from that, I think like you can continue to learn. So I guess going back to your original question of like, someone doesn't know about astrology, they want to get into it, I highly recommend Chani Nicholas, but I also just recommend in general finding someone who you just like their information, you like their interpretations. Another astrologer I'm a big fan of is Jessica Lanyadoo. She has a podcast. She's not a Hellenistic astrologer. She's what's called a humanistic astrologer. She uses Campanist house system. So I, in my process of learning about astrology, I tried to enmesh myself with a bunch of different astrologers and learn from different perspectives, because I was like, I don't know what any of this means. I want to know what resonates with me. And through that process of learning from different astrologers, I have found that I do actually really enjoy Hellenistic astrology. And part of why I enjoy it so much is because of these little like techniques that I mentioned, like time lords, chart sect. There's just so many different little things. And again, there's no way that I know any, like, I don't know all of them, but there's things that are specific to Hellenistic astrology that really resonate with me. So if you want to get into astrology, I recommend listening to, there's so much free resources for astrology. Like, pretty much every astrologer is going to have some sort of podcast, YouTube video, something where they
yeah.
are discussing what's going on in the world or what's going on at certain points of times. So I would really recommend like finding one or two or three people that you feel called to and just like giving it a listen and like being really patient, because they're going to say things that you're like, I don't know what this means. And just writing those words down, tracking those words, looking the word up later, just trying your best to really listen and then later do your research on like, and most people who are making astrology content for the masses like Chani and Jessica, like they are not getting too technical. Like I feel like I'm actually at a point where like I love their work and I really am still going to engage with it, but I actually would like someone to be more
More
technical because
technical. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, my skill has increased, you know? And so like sometimes Channy will be like, "Oh, like if I'm getting too crazy," and I'm just like, "No, say more," you know?
I
Because like
need you to
I'm
get
both
even crazier.
exactly. But I also recognize that like there's so many people who are a part of her world, a part of the community that she built, and a lot of them aren't interested in learning astrology. They just are interested in living with astrology, which I think is totally valid and really beautiful. And I think that's really the point, right? Is that like astrology informs us about what is happening within us and around us, and it gives us more context. I find that like listening to essentially like weekly weather astrology is it's literally like checking the weather. It's literally like, okay, this is
That's what
happening
I
on
do
this
the
day.
same.
Yeah, it's just like a
Just
way of
like checking the weather.
reorienting yourself.
That's
I
so
Totally.
love
funny. I
what is it, Planetario? Is that what it is? Yeah, like
Oh,
Planetario
I don't
is
know
like an
Planetario.
app.
Show me.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm gonna
this
have
is
to,
like planetary hours.
yes, and it shows like the
Cool.
different, like,
I
gotta
love that too.
lower the
So
different
that's a different
oh
planetary.
thing.
Oh my gosh, the different planetary hours and in my
Yes.
location and stuff like that. It was actually Abby that put me on this.
I
Um,
love that too. So I will say, and maybe this is wrong, but my opinion is that planetary hours are like not as much of an astrology thing as they are a planetary magic thing. And I think there's a lot of
really,
things that are like, again, like there's astrology is so vast and there's so many different types of astrology, but like
I
not
agree.
everyone who likes astrology is doing magic, and not
Hmm.
mm,
everyone doing magic likes astrology. But
astrology.
there
Yeah.
Yeah,
are astrological magics, and there's so many degrees of that, right? Like there are what we're talking about now, like planetary hours, planetary days, but there's also like electional charts, which is essentially like finding the moment of the sky that you want to mm, take and make into like a talisman. There's also people who do transit magic or just planetary magic around transits, which are like a little bit less specific than like a talismanic moment. There's fixed star magic. A lot of people who work with fixed stars are people who are interested in magic, but not every person who likes astrology is going to be doing magic. Actually, I would say most of them are not. I would say that
yeah,
astrology is actually more, and again, this is my opinion. I'm not saying this is a fact, but that I
it
think
is
that
a fact.
astrology is actually a lot more mainstream than witchcraft, occult
I think
magic
it's
stuff.
true because like Kristen, like she even watching me do it, like she didn't get really interested in magic until she learned that there's like such thing as planetary hours. Then she was like, "Oh wait, I know something about this. Like I know about astrology." And then once she put two and two
Hell
together
yeah.
about the planetary
Yeah,
hours, she was like, "Oh, this makes sense." I'm
that's
like,
so
"Duh."
Totally.
cool.
Do y'all ever feel like get an existential crisis because like we have access to Egyptian astrology through a calculator and Hellenistic astrology through a calculator?
All the
What do you
time.
mean through a
We don't have to go
calculator?
see a lady like they used to.
Oh, like through like the phone and like through like a computer
Or
and
even
stuff.
like ancient Egyptian, like we were talking about. You were talking about the sidereal, however you say that. I think that's how you say it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You said that it was like ancient Egyptian. Like that's crazy that we
I'm
just
pretty
have
sure.
access to that, like on our fingertips. And Hellenistic astrology. Like what the fuck?
Well, yeah,
Like
I
It's
mean,
Egypt
it
so
makes
is
sense.
interesting.
like really interesting to think about like how like I think that I feel mixed about it. On one end I think it's really
That me
cool because
too.
like
I feel
at
mixed
the
about it.
like like specifically kind of like going back to Channy Nicholas, right? Like she is allowing so many people to understand and learn about astrology, whereas like in the ancient world, like you didn't have the access, the
No,
time, the dedication. Like you literally had to dedicate your life. Like you were an astrologer. You were an astrologer for the kings. You were an astrologer
Hmm.
for the pharaohs. Like
Now
and
it's
like
like it doesn't
people.
even matter if you're dumb or not. You're dumb if you do it, but you're like really like you like that little star shit.
that
Like
I also, it's also the idea
Yeah,
of like sometimes when things are so accessible, it leads
get
to a lot of
fucked.
miscommunication, or it
totally,
leads to a lot of like what is it called, like clickbait, like what you were saying before of like the clickbait.
yeah,
And so it's like sometimes like when it's someone who has no clue and they go on a website and this random website tells them all this and that, and then we go and we run with it. And so I love that we have these resources accessible, because if not, nobody would really know about it. It would be, how
totally.
would we
Yeah.
learn? But then on the other hand, it's also like, where's the reliability? And how do we find out what's reliable and what's not if we don't even really understand astrology as a whole? And so I
Totally.
think that's where like I do like a lot of the astrological charts, and like I read through my own and I'm like, oh my God, that makes sense. That makes sense. But then I'm like, okay, is that it's resonating for me because I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually doing it correctly? Or am I just
Mm-hmm.
picking certain things that just align with how I want to see things? And so I think like
Mm.
shameless plug, going to you, Emma, and actually getting my chart read has was such a phenomenal journey for me because it wasn't biased. And
Mm.
like naturally as humans, we are biased. If I
Totally.
see that a Libra is like confusing, I'm gonna erase that shit and say that she's lovely. Like no matter how much like I
Totally.
love seeing things as authentically as I can, but we're human, and sometimes when we're seeking this information all by ourselves, it can be really really hard to see it
Yeah.
as a whole.
Thank you. I will. One thing I do want to say, one thing I do just want to say is that, like, the way that I like to work with astrology with my clients is that I like to blend a lot of the modalities that I work with. So, like, in my magical mentorship, like, I'm using astrology, I'm using tarot, I'm using witchcraft knowledge. I'm connecting with people, we're talking, we're working through things based off of my experience. But even like in my sessions, like my readings, like I do always really like to do a little bit of tarot, a little bit of astrology. I don't offer full natal chart readings, but I can absolutely have a couple of people that I suggest for natal chart readings that you guys can include
Yes.
in the notes, because I think that I like to work with astrology to strengthen whatever else we're looking at. Like I have like a Persephone reading where we look at asteroid Persephone, and then I have like, if we want to talk about something that's going on in your life, I'm going to look at both the astrology, both the tarot, but like a full natal chart reading is just not my thing that I offer, and there's so many people who do that amazingly, and like, yeah. So I just want to clarify that.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying because I didn't know the difference.
Do
So
you want to one day?
a full natal chart reading would be like essentially going through your entire chart and being like, this is your chart, which we did in your session. We looked at some natal things and we looked at some transiting things, but we didn't go
Okay.
over every single placement, and we didn't like typically, it depends on the astrologer, but like typically with a natal chart reading, you're not focusing so much on transits. I tend to focus more on transits, less on natal for the type of work that I do with clients, because it's a lot around like what we talked a lot about in your both of your sessions is like what you're working on, how to do magic around those things. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where I'm bringing in astrology of like, this is something that's going to be supportive. This is something that can help when it comes to the transit that's happening. This is the area of your life that's really being highlighted. Here's days that I suggest doing magic on for that. Um, so that's kind of like my approach with my clients, but there's people who do full transit readings, full natal chart readings, or full both together, and maybe are not including tarot or talking about spell work, like there's just like different ways that people
That's so
approach.
awesome to me.
Yeah.
This is so interesting. Ugh. Abby, I know you had a question.
Yes.
Um, what's a Time Lord?
Oh,
Can you
totally.
explain
Okay.
that again?
Yeah. So a Time Lord is a way for you to ground yourself in like what that year is going to be like for you and like how to orient yourself in the year. So another thing to note about the Time Lord is that like it kind of like delineates a little bit of like what the speed or like the pace of the year would be. Like for me, like having a Venus Time Lord, Venus transits aren't like, they're not rare, but they're not like the moon has transits every second of every day. So like when you're in a moon Time Lord year, there's like a lot of fluctuation. If you're in like a Saturn Time Lord year, there's like more, it's like a slower moving planet, right? So you're thinking about like the speed of the planet, but then also like you're thinking about the major transits of that planet. So like the Venus retrograde is going to be really important for me with Venus being my Time Lord. Like that's going to be something I'm really going to take time to like make sure I am doing something special for. And that's not something you have to do, but especially like as a witch, like I really like to, like whenever I have like a connection with the Time Lord, or not necessarily a connection, but I try to make a connection with the Time Lord each year. So Friday, Venus Day, I'm trying to like tap into Venus energy more this year. I'm trying to pay attention to these themes more. It's just a way to kind of be like, oh, this is the focus. And it's
I was
based on,
born under a Venus retrograde.
Oh yeah.
And I was in my Venus return this year, and Venus is my time lord. That's crazy.
That's a
Mm,
lot of Venusian
No
that's a
wonder I got
energy.
engaged.
Hell yeah.
Venus.
I love
Aphrodite
that.
was like,
Exactly. So
Yeah,
you're
literally.
getting it. It's like you're totally getting it. It's like there's these themes that are aligned with Venus. I think also like the work that you're doing in your magical practice in your business, like working on adornments,
true.
working on goddess work, going deeper into the goddess, like all of that is so Venus Time Lord. Like so. Like totally, totally.
Mm,
That's true.
mm.
Yeah.
Persifassa. If anyone ever wants to know who Persifassa is, you go to Abby.
Hopefully at some point there's an episode about Persifassa.
Right? Oh
Yeah,
I would love
that'd be
that.
my gosh.
Give the people
Why
what they want.
not? Literally. I'm ready
just my
whenever
life's
you're.
We're
thesis
ready.
in a
Okay, so
podcast
it's
episode. That's funny.
literally.
I
Right,
mean, even I feel like
this is
for
our podcast. Why
me,
don't we do it? Let's
Or
do it.
literally,
what
I
was you
also
saying?
feel like for me, like learning about Persifassa, like through you and through Jess, like feels aligned with me, with Venus being my Time Lord as well, because it
And I
feels
feel like
like
with
this
your Italian heritage too, it's so just like it's
totally.
Everything
very
just
much
yeah.
Sicily. I feel like that
Yeah.
was like the biggest
Yeah, and
like
I'm
part that
Sicilian.
looked at her like that.
That's
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
sick.
See,
The
there
Yeah,
you
way
go.
the world just collides is
Maybe that'll be the
insane
totally.
to
next thing I
me.
talk about is like the origins. That'd be cute.
Ah,
Yeah, and like I feel
yes.
like because it's like yes, it's Persephone who I already have a relationship with, but it's like this more Venusian version of Persephone. Like
Hmm.
I'm not surprised that that is something that's coming to light for me in my Venus Time Lord year, you
Yeah,
know?
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. Also, I was gonna ask about the asteroid, Persephone asteroid. I've never heard about that.
Yes. The
Yeah.
first time I've ever heard of the Persephone asteroid was through Emma during the reading, and it resonated so deeply.
That's
What is
cool.
Yay.
Persephone?
So there's a ton of asteroids. Like I I'm gonna say hundreds, but it might even be thousands. Like they're like literally like an
Hmm.
asteroid in the sky. Like people have named them and coined them for different
Mm.
deities. And so there's in addition to all the planets, like there's these other things in the sky that we can work with, like the fixed stars, like the asteroids. And like these things can like inform our relationship to the things they're named after. So there's a Persephone asteroid, there's like an Athena asteroid, like there's so many different ones. And Demetra George, who is an incredible wealth of knowledge, like she is like, if you specifically want to learn about Hellenistic astrology, like she is the person to learn from. She has a book called Asteroid Goddesses that you can really just dive into.
That's
Um,
cool. That sounds fun.
yeah. And like essentially it's just another point in the sky that's not a planet. It's not a star, it's an asteroid. And then like through the mythology of Persephone in the reading that I do, we like look at where that's in your chart and like what that means for you. So like I very much interpret it as like my relationship to Persephone, like what where that's going, where it is, but also like Persephone inherently represents transformation, reclaiming of power. There is so many things that that resonate with Persephone, and I think like having the knowledge of that mythology and then looking at where that's happening in your chart is like a really beautiful way to like marry myth and astrology, which a lot of astrology is myth, but specifically if you're someone who's like interested in deity work, it's really interesting to look at which asteroids, and you can do it both ways. You can say, I work with Persephone, I want to see where asteroid Persephone is, but you can also say, I want to work with deity and I'm curious what deities make prominent aspects in my chart that I'm naturally more inclined to work with. It can go both ways.
That's cool.
That's so
Mm-hmm.
cool. Yeah, Persephone was very loud in like the reading that we had and within my chart during this season of my life. And I thought it was
Mm-hmm.
so funny because I am a newer devotee to Persephone. And so to have all of that and like to see exactly where in my life I'm starting to hit this catabasis has been
Mm-hmm.
just it's been interesting. Like I probably should be making better decisions, but I still see the flow and to see like okay, these spaces are where I am transforming and I actively am feeling it. I'm actively seeing it instead of it just being like oh, maybe in 5 days this is going to happen. Like it's very,
Yeah.
very cool how not only does it resonate emotionally, but it does really like track in spaces of like timelines and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which, of course, because I mean, it is astrology, it's following the cycles of the planets. But
Yeah,
that's one thing I appreciate so much about astrology is that you can, like, it's very concrete. Like, you can see it if you're measuring certain time. And so I
totally.
wanted to get back to the question that I had earlier about north and south nodes. So I've
Mm-hmm.
been hearing a lot of different kind of discourse about what north and south node is, why it's so important to know what each one is, and how it affects your entire life. I still don't understand what they mean.
So, okay,
I don't either.
so one of the astrologers that I mentioned, her name's Jessica Lanyadoo. I really like her. I really respect her. And something that she speaks about is that the North and the South node don't really come into realization until like 30, 35. So it's not really something to be paying attention to
Huh?
until that point in time.
That's so
So,
So,
like the
interesting.
year?
hmm?
Like the
Like your
year
age.
2035?
No, no, no,
No,
like
no,
your
no, like
age,
like
like your
maybe
age.
30
Oh,
or
I'm
30 or
tripping.
35. Like yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
God. What the fuck? I was
So
like,
it's not really something that like you, in her perspective, tap into always or early on. So I think about that, but also I think about, I'm 29. I'm not 35. I think she says 35 to 40 actually. It's because I'm like always like, oh, it's not soon for me. So if it was 30, I'd be like, it's soon. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
essentially like I think about that and I like that perspective and I hear her do readings and I see why she says that, but also I think about my own chart and how I resonate with my north and south node. And there is like, it does resonate for me, even though I'm not at
mm,
that point. So essentially, how I like to look at it is that the north node is what your soul is striving towards. That is like the lesson that your soul is learning in this lifetime. The south node is the thing that your soul has come into this lifetime already understanding and knowing. So for me, I'll use myself as an example. My south node is in Pisces. I am a psychic, I'm a witch. These things are very natural to me. I've done these things for most of my life. Um, a lot of people ask me, how did I learn to read tarot? How did I learn to be psychic or tap into my psychic abilities? Like, I just taught myself. I just did it. Like, it was something that was so natural to me. And Pisces is a lot of things, but I really resonate with that interpretation of my
Yeah.
Pisces South Node. Like, that is something that my soul had knowledge of. I did not have to work very hard to have that knowledge. My North Node is in Virgo, which is being more meticulous, being more analytic, being more discerning, having more strategy, having more dedication, like being like more granular about things, which is something that isn't supernatural for me. So it makes sense that that is like part of like my soul's evolution. There's other factors here too, like where the house is and if it's making aspects and things like that, but I think that's a good kind of general overview is that like what you're striving towards, what you're meant to learn is your north node, what you already have the knowledge of. Some people view it as releasing, like what you're meant to release. I don't personally like agree with that. I think it is more about the things that you already have naturally, like your natural talents and gifts versus things that are like a little bit more challenging for you. I will also say that the north and south nodes are related to the eclipse and the eclipse cycles. And so when the north and south node changes in the sky, which remember your natal chart is a snapshot of the sky, that has to do with the eclipse axes that we're experiencing. So you might be hearing a lot about the nodes right now because we're shifting the nodal axis into a new eclipse season. We're going to be
Yeah.
having eclipses in different signs that we haven't had before. This happens every few years. This is like not a new thing. Like this always happens. As it shifts, it moves into a different thing. Right now, it's moving into Leo Aquarius, which is different. Like it's going to feel different, but the act of the nodal axis is shifting is something that we experience quite often. Um, so like that's how you would interpret it in as far as like in the world and in a transit perspective, but natally it's what I was describing of like what you're striving towards. And then that's also true for the eclipses because it's like when we have north node eclipses, there's this energy of like things coming in, things building. South node eclipses are about things releasing, things being put out into the world, things shedding. So whenever we have an eclipse, that's something to note what kind of eclipse it is.
That is amazing because literally the only time I saw this was in Cosmopolitan and it was telling me how I have to deal with karma. So I'm very glad that I learned
So,
better.
no, actually, there is something really true about that because the idea of like the soul and like what I'm talking about, like what the soul knows, what the soul's striving for, that is something from what we would call evolutionary astrology, which has a lot to do with karma.
Mm.
Like that's the whole purpose of evolutionary astrology, to my understanding. It's not what I practice, but it seems it's like a lot about like the soul, where the soul's going, the evolution of the soul. And so it's interesting that like this is my understanding of nodes, even though I don't practice that type of astrology, and a lot of my
Yeah.
teachers are not those teachers, but that's just always what resonated most with me and like always what stuck with me and how I tend to keep it. So I think again it's like I think that my approach to astrology is very similar to my approach to magic. It's very eclectic of like I'm not ever going to be someone that's like super dogmatic and say like I'm not going to talk about this because it's not a part of the astrology that I lean towards. You know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
there's different things. And I think
So
also
there's
like
like there's validity in anything as long as you truly resonate.
total. I mean, that's how I
Yeah.
believe. I,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's people who would disagree with me as they would, but like there's no branch of astrology that is like looked down upon or
Yeah.
like, that is seen as like lesser than. It's just like different ways of approaching it. And also like based on like what you want to do, like what is your interest with astrology? Is it self-knowledge? Is it about knowledge of the world? Is it about knowledge of like timing techniques of like when to do the right thing? Is it about like horary astrology is about answering a question? Like, is it more divination? Like, there's different types of things depending on what you're seeking.
That's so cool. I love how you explained the North and South Node because I was well, the way that I learned it in whatever capacity was very much like karmic and this is what you should do this lifetime, this is what you shouldn't do. And like that
Mm-hmm.
holds validity for people who need that structure. But for
Mm,
me, it was more scary of like I saw the North and South Node as something very intimidating and very scary because it's like I can't do this, I can't do that, I have to do this. And so your
totally.
explanation kind of opened it up a bit more for me to be like, oh no,
Mm,
this is what I've known, this is what I've grown and understood, and this is what I'm the knowledge that I'm still seeking. And so it's
totally.
so that is where I'm like nerding out a bit more of like how there are so many different layers and levels. And like if you open one door, it says something, and then you open the other door, it says another thing, but
Yeah,
all of them are still valid. That
totally.
is blowing my mind more than
Well, I
anything.
think it's like, I think that this kind of analogy might make it more palatable, especially for you, Kimmy, is that like astrology, even though there are like more rules and more like hard lines and like astrology is math, right? So there's like literal angles, there's
Yeah.
shapes, there's math involved. Like there is more
I'm not a
structure.
mathematician.
In addition to that, just like tarot, every astrologer, you're getting their personal gnosis through the things that they have learned. So, like, everyone's going to have a different interpretation, even though there's quote unquote a right answer for a lot of things. And
Yeah.
I, as a reader, as someone using astrology, using tarot, like as a mentor, like as whatever, as a person, I'm a very anti-dogmatic person and I bring that lens into everything that I do. So I think especially as you're talking about the North Node of like it's the should and shouldn't, I wouldn't describe anything that way because that's not who I am.
Yeah.
So I think that like there's always this like good thing to ground yourself in. And I think for some reason, especially like the masses, like don't always remember this about astrology because it is so mainstream and it is so accessible and we have so many like apps and technology and stuff, but like essentially like whether you're using an app or you're going to a person, like you're still getting that knowledge through the vessel of a person. There's
Yeah.
still a person who is the conduit, and their values, their chart, their Mercury, their Venus, their values, their communication, all those things are coming through as
Yeah,
the way that they
that's
communicate that to you. And so it's really important, I think, like in all types of spiritual spaces and divination, like to really go to people that you admire. Like I think I've said like a couple times, like I really admire the astrologers that I learned from, like Jessica Lanyadoo, Chani Nicholas, Demetra George. Like I really look up to these people and I like the way that they organize themselves around their values. And I think if you don't resonate with how someone is as a person, you're not going to resonate with how they think about the
Yeah.
universe, essentially, and how they talk about you as a person. So it's so important, I think. And I think this could be applied to anything. Like, this is not just about magic or astrology. Like, this is about every teacher and everything that you're doing, is that, like, if you are clashing with someone on your values, you're not going to resonate with the way that they
Yeah.
teach. And a lot of times, if we are looking at like pop astrology online, you don't, maybe you know who's writing that, maybe you don't. And honestly, like, I will say there are a lot of like legitimate, really respected astrologers who do write for Cosmo, or like do write for like the Daily Mail or whatever. Like, it's not like bots, right? Like, it is real astrologers.
Okay, that validated me
Yeah,
because
that's what I thought
I
too.
was really scared they were bots, and I was like, damn, am I gonna have to
Hmm.
stop reading
I'm sure
these?
some of them have bots, but a lot of them will say like it should say in the article, or like Lisa Stardust, who is like a pretty famous astrologer. I want to say she writes for like Refinery 29, and then like Rick Levine, who's a really great famous astrologer. I don't remember what it was, but like I took one of his classes at Norwalk, and he was like, "Oh, I used to write the daily horoscopes for." I think he said Yahoo. I don't quote me, but like,
Oh my
something
God.
also like kind of like where I was like, "Oh wow, that's so interesting," and also so cool that like someone with your knowledge was doing that. And again, like,
Hmm.
there's validity, but then there's also again this idea of like this has to reach so many people,
Yeah.
and we can't get so hyper specific. Like, we can't know exactly how it's hitting your chart, because as much as we can interpret how a transit is happening for a sun sign, depending on what you're looking at, like, that doesn't really include houses, which I think are like, I think like the thing that will take you from kind of understanding astrology to really getting it and implementing it in your life is understanding the house system. Like, once I understood houses, I feel like I became really someone who understood the language of astrology. And it took a really long time. Astrology is a lot of memorization. Like, it is, like, truly. And like sometimes you're like, I don't know that my brain can hold all this knowledge. But
I don't
it's just like
understand.
repetitive. Like, just keep listening and keep learning, and like just keep at it. And like at some point, like, I remember like when I started like really just being like, I really want to understand astrology, and I'm going to make it a point to listen to these astrology podcasts even though I don't know what the fuck's going on. And at a certain point, I was like, wait a minute, I know what that means. Like,
I know what
like,
the
it just,
fuck is going on.
yeah. And now I'm like talking about it on another podcast, right? Like,
Yeah.
learning is fucking cool. And like, you will learn if you just keep at it. And especially because so much of it is memorization, it just takes time. It takes time to integrate that into your mind. But I would say if you're at the point where you're like, I feel like I know a lot about astrology, but how do I move to like using it and like seeing how it works in my life? Learn the houses. The houses really like were the biggest game changer for me.
That's true. I feel
I
like
have
once
it.
that's same. I resonate with it.
I have it in my like grimoire, and like I wrote it out. I still
I
don't
love
get
that.
it, but maybe I need to practice. I need to practice it more. I need to.
I think that like also I think this is true for like uh, tarot too. Like, is that like sometimes when there's so much knowledge, like I feel like conflicted about what I'm about to say, but sometimes when you're starting to learn something, a keyword is not the worst thing. And then
Yeah.
once you got the keywords, you can build, because astrology is layers. And I don't think we ever want to stop at a keyword. And I totally get why people are like against keywords
Yeah.
entirely. But if you're like trying really hard to learn and you feel really overwhelmed, I think 3 keywords per house that you can work on memorizing. And then when you get to that point, like, add a
Build the
sentence.
vocabulary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Like, just
agree.
build and build and build. And I think like I'm still building. We're all always building. Like, there's always going to be again like a new teacher who says something differently that really hits for you, that really resonates for you. Another
I
astrologer who
use my
I
tarot
really
booklet. I need a keyword.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Sometimes you
like.
need that, and sometimes it's like you forget and you just like need that spark.
Hmm.
Or like Abby, like you had like too many joints that day. You need that spark of memory.
You need
Yeah,
that
for
spark.
real. Because I'm being biased with myself. I need a keyword, bro. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, and then I
I
look and I'm
love it.
like, wah, wah.
As a teacher, I love keywords because I agree with you so
Yeah,
much, Emma. Like,
I'm
you
good
need
with the
them to
synonym, baby.
build, literally, and
totally.
it's meant to be a sub. Not it's not meant to substitute. It's meant to what is the word? It's another word for it.
Like an
Um,
additive, like a
it's meant to add to it. It's not.
Foundation.
supplement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look at
Well,
how
also,
many
if you
witches does
think
it take to
about
figure out one word?
if
Told
you
you I'm
think
good with
too about
synonyms.
like the way that you're thinking about like astrological placement, right? So you're thinking about the sign, the planet, the sign, and then the house. So if you got three keywords for each of these things, that's 9 words. Like that's a lot to then
Yeah.
synthesize, right? Like because synthesizing is a whole other part of astrology that is really complicated. And that I think is where you can get really creative. You can rely on your intuition more. That's like where your personality and your values and your thought process comes through is through that synthesization. I'm not synthesizing.
You through synthesizing. Absolutely.
Synthesizing.
This is so
Um,
sick.
like something I recently heard, another astrologer I really like, their name is Meg Kane, and they did this like free webinar about Saturn and Aries. And they spoke about how like Saturn and Aries speaks, this is
Yeah, I'm
something that's just
scared.
like stuck with me, like because we have Saturn and Aries now, right? So like it's they were speaking about how like the distance between desire and implementation of something is really short with Saturn and Aries. And I,
Please. Please. That's what I need. Come
yeah.
on.
Well, so it's interesting because it's like that's happening in the sky, but then I'm having my Saturn return. So natally, I have Saturn and Aries. And I really resonated with that. And I was like, yeah, for sure. If I desire something, I'm going to do it. And like, I've brought this up to a lot of different people, and a lot of people have been like, I am not that way. Like, if I desire something, I mull on it, I think about it, I think about the plan, I think about the steps. I'm like, no, I just fucking do that shit. Like, like, and it's so interesting to like have that language, have that framework that then creates conversation about how we orient ourselves in the world that like it starts with astrology and then it takes us away from astrology and then it brings us
Yeah.
back, I think it's
Hmm.
just so cool and beautiful. And I think like really like astrology in a lot of ways is like the study of humanness, which I think is really fascinating.
Yeah,
I
it opens up so
agree.
much discourse. Like even right now, like we're an hour in and it feels like we haven't even scratched the surface.
We have
No, because we
not.
And
haven't.
and it's
Not
but
at
it's
all.
been so like it's been so eye-opening. And
Mm-hmm.
like it's so crazy. Like you don't know what you don't know if you don't know it. And like all of
Literally.
these different words, I'm like, oh my fucking goodness, like holy shit, my whole world has just changed. When is
And
my
we're
Saturn
like both
return?
Aries, but she just jumps into shit, and I'm
You
fill
mull
up
over.
like yeah,
Yeah.
literally. And but that's I'm pretty sure because my Virgo moon. I'm just like it needs to be perfect. I need to have
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
arguments
there's
squared
so
away in
many.
Yeah.
my
Well,
head.
that's like a really good point, Abby, is that like there's so many like yes, we're both Aries and there's parts of us that we really resonate with each other and really share in that, but then like also like
Mhm.
it's so hard to know like am I doing this because I'm an Aries, am I doing this because
Yeah.
my Saturn's in Aries, am I doing this because I
Yeah.
have an Aries stellium, am I doing this because of that, like like you could think all day long about what placement or what transit means what. And I think sometimes that's fun, but also I think sometimes that limits you, right? Like it's just kind
Yeah.
of like, oh, this
Yeah.
is what I resonate with, and like this is the language I found for it, and like, yeah,
I agree.
Hmm.
Because I'm a Libra with a cap. Libra with a cap sun? No, cap moon, Sag sun. And I jump into things like Bob the
Wait,
fucking
no, no, no.
Builder.
You would be your Sag rising.
Sag rising, cap moon.
Your
Thank
sun
you.
is Libra. So Libra sun,
Libra sun, cap
Capricorn
rise,
moon, Sag rising.
moon.
So okay, so me and
Yes.
Abby are both Aries, so we share that, but then me and Kimmy are both Sag risings. So like we actually experience transits more closely together because our rising sign is the same, which
Mm.
means our house
Hmm.
transits are the same.
That's
So
cool.
me and Kimmy are both experiencing Saturn in our fifth
I'm a
house right
Leo
now.
rising, so does that count if we're all fire signs? Are we close in any way in that? If in the
We're
transit?
close
Yes.
in the sense that we're all
We're all fire
fiery
signs.
and
Mm,
hot
mm,
because we're
mm.
fiery.
I didn't even know we were in our our house transit of the fifth house. I should probably look
With
into what
so
that means.
Saturn is in the fifth house because Saturn is in Aries, and as a
Oh
Sag rising,
yes,
your
you
fifth
were
house
on
is
my
Aries.
fifth
Yeah,
house is
yeah,
in
yeah.
Aries.
I gotta
Okay,
look and see where
see,
Saturn
So
is in mine.
something
I don't know.
interesting, Abby, I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but one of the things, and I kind of touched on this before when we were talking about the vampire thing, which I also realized I never gave the vampire a moon
That shit makes
sign.
me laugh
yeah,
so hard.
Edward does
Um,
not have a moon sign.
the vampire doesn't have a moon sign. It's fine.
Mm-mm.
So a rising sign can also be like your rising sign can indicate what you look like. And with you as a Leo rising, kind of like a signature of a Leo rising is that they have big hair because Leo is like the
That's
mane.
funny.
And you have like curls and like big hair and like your hair
Yeah.
like envelops you. And like that is something that
The
I
curls.
I've learned, but then I've seen the truth in it through multiple different Leo risings. I've been like, okay, yes, I totally see that you're a Leo rising because you have big hair. And like,
Mhm.
it's interesting. And I also think that like a Leo rising is going to be so different than a Leo moon. Like I have a Leo moon, you have Leo rising, like that's so different. Even though
Lana
they're
Del
both
Rey has a
Leo,
Leo
both in the big
moon.
three. Hmm?
Lana Del
Lana.
Rey has a Leo moon too.
Does she?
Hmm.
That's why you were the Lana Tumblr girl when
That's
you
why
were
it
in
was,
high
yeah.
Yeah.
school. I'm so jealous.
Hmm.
Ugh, my Capricorn moon could never.
A Capricorn moon, and I have seen this in evidence, but also like this would be my interpretation, but I've also again seen evidence for this. So I think that like brings up a good point is that like you can have an interpretation and then you're going to meet people with that placement and you might be like, okay, that's not true. Like it's a lot of like testing data and like seeing
Yeah.
how things resonate and like how like it could be true for one person, not true for another. But what I was going to say about a Capricorn moon is that a Capricorn moon is a hard
Yeah.
worker. My God, is
But
a Capricorn moon a workaholic sometimes? Yes.
All the
But like
time.
literally so dedicated. Like my old roommate was a Capricorn moon. And she was just like at the time that we lived together, she was freelancing. She was working all hours of the night. Like she was just like always like getting a new thing. Like she's just like so dedicated and like I feel that a Capricorn moon is also really good at like building their own structures. And I think that that's
Oh,
true for
yeah.
you, Kimmy,
And
as
I
well.
need it. I need it because my Libra sun is Delulu. And so my Libra sun, I wake up in the morning and it's like one of those like it's the Rick and Morty episode where in the daytime they do whatever and they're so delusional and then in the nighttime their nighttime selves does all the work. And it's like that. My
Totally.
Libra is like, "Oh my gosh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that." And then like no work towards it. We're just spewing this thing out, and then Capricorn Moon comes in, and it's just like da 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 da. And then my Sag Rising is like, what the fuck did this bitch decide? What? Why are we doing this right now? But we gonna do it.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right. It is time for Siren Song. Abby, what is your Siren Song today?
I have two. I can't choose for real. I never
Okay.
had to. So number one, Beethoven. I know that sounds insane, but I like the number 14 specifically, Moonlight Sonata. That's
Okay,
my
that one is
favorite.
yeah.
She's
Okay.
It
like,
is. It's a
wait,
classic.
Beethoven.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I was like, I have to give
the
two.
thing is, the
Can't
thing
just
is,
leave
while
y'all
we
that.
were, for those who were not a part of this, while we were searching for music, she was saying how she was talking about only like Louisiana, Southern. So I was waiting for songs that would make me shake my ass, and then she's like Beethoven. Okay, you know what? I love it.
My
You're
She's
right.
second
like,
one
I
is
gotta be
that.
honest, it's Sonnet 14. Like, what?
That's yes. Oh, I love it. That's
I'm
That's
so.
dead.
That's
funny.
so.
I love it,
You did
Abby. I
that.
love it.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
So
Okay,
your
my second
second
one,
one.
yeah, is New Orleans Boy. Y'all know that song? Take me on a trip, I like to go somewhere.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
I love
Well,
that
it's
song.
New Orleans bounce music, and she's like,
Instead of American
a New
Boy, New
Orleans
Orleans
boy.
Boy.
Yes, it's so good. Oh my
Oh
God,
I
yeah.
you gotta look it
love
up.
Yeah.
American Boy. That's like one of my favorite songs of all time.
Yes.
Now you
I
gotta
love
look
it.
it
Oh.
up. I know I said it for a
Okay.
reason.
No.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's only one girl who sings it. You can't get it.
I'm gonna look it up.
I think her first name is Asada. A
I'll
S
put it.
S
Okay.
A T A.
I'll put it up here too, just in case.
It's so
Holy,
I
good.
love it.
I had
American
it
Boy
on the
is such a
radio.
good
I was
song.
like,
So good. That's
Take
my
me to New
childhood.
York. I want to see LA. I really want
and
to
it's like all the
come kick
little
it with
parts
you.
of like New
Oh,
Orleans she sings about it. It's so funny.
I
I
Because
love
if you
love
that.
like know the
That's
it.
so
place, you're like, oh
cute.
my God.
I really love that.
But it makes you like it. Just it sometimes it just hits. Sometimes those
Mhm.
random songs just hit.
Especially
Oh,
Hmm.
bounce music. It's so good. I can't help but move my
right,
back. Not my butt, my back.
girl, but you got your
Anyway.
booty.
She's
Don't
like,
you
I'm
stop it.
twerking to Beethoven. What about
Yeah,
it?
yeah. What about
Hmm.
it? What are you gonna say about it? Oh my god. Holy crap. Yeah, I
Oh
need to
my
drink
God.
water. I am dehydrated. Oof. Oh
Me
my
too,
god.
girl.
All right, Emma, what is your siren song?
Okay, mine is like an old song that I've just like has recirculated for me, and it's Gray Area by Kate Renata and Mick Jenkins. I don't know if you know it.
Ooh,
Mm-mm.
no.
This is something you could get into. I don't know,
Oh,
are you familiar with either of them, Kate Renata or Mick
Mm-mm.
no.
Jenkins? Okay, so Kate Renata is like, I want to say he like makes the beats and like he has like other people come on his songs and like sing, and then Mick Jenkins is like a rapper. Both really, really good good
That sounds
artists, but this
good.
is like a song about both of them.
Oh,
What's your siren song, Kimmy?
so you guys kept talking about Venusian energy and like everything being in Venus. So the song that kept going into my head was Aphrodite, and it's by Honey Gentry, and it's
Mm,
literally a song I use in worship to Aphrodite, and
I
it's
love that.
about like it's literally like a it reminds me of a very sapphic poem
Mm,
of like Aphrodite, I don't want to be in love with this person anymore. It's very like one-sided, and Aphrodite responding to
mm.
her,
Probably
and
good song.
it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So after this amazing yap session with Emma and Abby, we are, instead of doing a reading, Emma is doing this incredible thing and kind of going through our chart a little bit to answer some questions, just to kind of show you how she reads charts. And I think it'll be an amazing end to our episode. So thank you again, Emma. This is like really, really awesome.
Yes, of course. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so I have Abby's chart up here. So essentially, what we have going on here is that this inner chart is Abby's natal chart. So this is the chart, the screenshot of the sky when Abby was born. And then around it, we've got the sky as of this moment in time. So this is the transiting chart, and we can see how the sky right now is interacting with Abby's chart natally. So, Abby, what's your question?
Well, so does Saturn in Aries, will that have any effect on my chart? Or will I come out unscathed?
Totally. So this is Saturn. This is what the Saturn glyph looks like. And we're looking at the outer chart because we're looking at Saturn in Aries as a transit. So as you can see here, Saturn and then in Aries. So actually Saturn right now is like conjunct your sun. It's sitting on top of your sun. So Saturn conjunct the sun is a little bit of a challenging transit. It can create limitations, especially around confidence and your desire to be seen, but it can also create a desire to have some sort of structure for the things that you're working on, the things that you want to be seen for. So there is this energy where Saturn is coming in and asking you to get more serious about what it is you want to be known for, but then is also forcing you to reflect upon what blocks and limitations might be stopping you from doing so.
Nope, that checks out.
It's freaking
When is it
awesome.
over?
It's gonna be a long transit. So a Saturn transit is like around, I want to say 2 years. I'm pretty sure it's like 2 years. So it's not going to be conjunct your sun the whole time.
Okay.
But we are going to have Saturn go into retrograde. So essentially, like, conjunct means sitting on top of. So you see here Saturn 14 degrees, here's your sun at 17 degrees. So within the time that it is around 14 to 17, or actually even 14 to 20 degrees, that's using what we call an orb, which is like how far away the planet in the conjunction is. So I'm using like a 3 degrees orb. So 3 degrees on each side. That's what I would consider a conjunction. So for the time that it is between 14 and 20, it's gonna be a bit. But let's look at October and see what's going on in October. Yeah, so in October it's going to retrograde and then it's going to be 9 degrees. So it won't be conjunct anymore, but it's still in your ninth house. And so in your ninth house, this also is speaking about, in addition to what we talked about, these things you want to be seen for, known for, the structure, this is around your knowledge. This is around your knowledge of magic. This is around your knowledge of philosophy. This is also around travel and expansion. The ninth house is like a really special and magical place that has to do with like expanding the mind. Research is like very much in the ninth house. Also, the ninth house is known as the house of the god. The third house, which opposes the ninth house, is the house of the goddess. So there's kind of more of this masculine deity energy here as well. And then Saturn obviously has a masculine element to it, and so does the sun. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was, while Saturn is in your ninth house here, there was a deepening in your connection with Hades or any other male deities that you work with. That could be a possible thing,
I've
how this
actually
shows up
been thinking
magically.
about Zeus a lot. That's crazy you said that.
What was that? Sorry.
I've been thinking about Zeus a lot. It's crazy you said that. And I don't know why, because I'm
Interesting.
like, Zeus, like, I get it, king of the gods, obviously. But what the in the hell? What, I mean, I just don't.
Yeah.
And
Visibility,
I don't never
power,
have, I'm not the type to
discipline.
say, oh my God, a God or goddess just came to me. Like, whatever. No tea, no shade to the people that say that. But that's just not
Totally.
me. Like, I'm on,
Yeah.
Same.
like, I'm
Same.
good. I'm chasing after him like fucking white on rice. Let's be real. But like, Zeus, absolutely not. I'm just like, this
Well,
is out
I
of
feel
left
like
field for what?
too. I feel like the way that we kind of operate,
No
which let me
disrespect.
know if you're like, no, I don't agree, but like, is that we feel pulled by some sort of knowledge, some sort of synchronicity,
Yeah.
and then we dive down that rabbit hole. So, like, is
Yeah.
that the deity calling to us, or is that us engaging with the message? Like, I
Honestly,
The
think it's a little bit
I
of
energy, yeah.
both.
say that, and I just made a video about Persephone marrying Zeus. Like, what
You
the fuck?
did.
Now that you said that, you know what? You're right.
And
That's,
also
You
look at
yeah,
the
did.
never mind.
season. Look at the season of your life. Like he is the king of gods, but he is also the god of discipline, the god of power,
Mm,
the god of rigidity and understanding
Mm,
what that routine and discipline looks like. He's also the great protector. And he is someone that is invoking of knowledge too. So if we think about all of these
that's
and we
different
true.
truly are
aspects,
polytheists, so, like me
yeah.
and
And
you,
so
Kimmy. So
yeah, so
it makes sense why we would have
yeah.
multiple. Like it's shocking to me every time. I don't know why. I don't know.
After there was like
Um,
a thunderstorm and lightning was striking
So there's been
everywhere.
Yeah,
so much
like.
lightning. There's been a lot of lightning. Just going back to your question, Abby, about the
Hmm.
time. So like in October, the conjunction isn't exact anymore, but because Saturn's retrograde, it's gonna pass over again. So these are themes you're gonna be working with for the next year, year and a half or so. Like these are not like short-term things. These are going to bring up bigger themes for you because again, when we're looking at the planet, we're looking at how slow that planet is, how much of an impact it's making. Like this is a big deal. Saturn transits are a big deal. So like it's not like a quick little blip. Like this is a long process of you working on this, you know?
Yeah, thank God. I need that.
Yeah. No rush. Saturn's not a rusher at all. What other questions do you have about your chart?
That's really all I have for mine. Kimmy, you want to go
Okay.
next?
Um, Whenever you're ready for me, I have two big questions.
All right, cool. Let's pull up Kim's chart. Okay, so again, this is Kim's natal chart. And then I'm gonna add on transit bi-wheel. So that's going around. And let me just make sure we're back. Yeah, we're back today. What are your questions, Kimmy?
Okay, so the first one is, I mean, my birthday's in 2 months anyway, but I still want to know my
Mm-hmm.
Time Lord because what if I still have
Yes,
things I gotta do? So my Time Lord
totally.
for this year, and then when my birthday on September 28th for next year, so I can prepare myself mentally, emotionally, and physically.
Totally. Okay, so we've got Kimmy's chart up. Her question is around what her Time Lord is for this year and what it's going to be after her birthday in September. So essentially, you can calculate this by counting, or you can use a calculator like this one on AstroSeek, which is free and easy to use. But essentially, what you would do is that you would start at the first house and then you would count all the way around until you got to however old you are. So using the first house as the year 0 to 1, the second house being 1 to 2, the third house being 2 to 3, just going all the way around. And Kimmy is 27. So right now she's in her fourth house year, and then she'll move into her fifth house year. So currently, as a fourth house, Hellenistic astrology only uses the traditional planets, so Pisces is ruled by Jupiter. So your Time Lord this year is Jupiter. And then you actually also natally have Jupiter in your fourth house, which is really interesting. That means there's like an emphasis on the Jupiterian energy. And then also
Okay.
Jupiter is exalted in Pisces. So like this is like a very good and abundant time. And then
Oh,
the fifth house year, which you'll move into in September, is going to be your Time Lord of that year is going to be Mars because your fifth house is ruled by Aries and then Mars rules Aries. So Mars will be your Time Lord. So Jupiter Time Lord years are like, I
War.
think in a
I'm
lot
just
of
kidding.
ways really easy to work with because Jupiter essentially moves signs every single year. So that moment in which Jupiter changes signs, which it actually very recently did, let me turn on the transits so we can look at that. Jupiter just moved into Leo. It was in Cancer for the last year or so. And it just moved into Leo not that long ago. So that shift is going to be a big deal for you because Jupiter is your time lord. So when Jupiter moved into the ninth house, into Leo, it's interesting because we were also just talking about the ninth house with Abby. Like, this is that same space of like knowledge, philosophy, psychology, the occult, travel, expanding the mind, the house of the god. Total makes sense with the fact that like you're working on your Apollo class, and then
Mhm.
Jupiter
I
is
have a ninth
literally,
house stellium.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
literally. Wait, I don't think you do, Abby.
Oh, I thought I did. Because I don't have a 12
Maybe
house
you
stellium
do.
either. Maybe I'm just not supposed to be spiritual
Wait,
and
hold on.
philosophical like I'm trying to be.
We'll come back to your chart and
Oh,
we'll
yeah, circle
see.
back.
Let's finish
Oh,
with
I
Abby,
thought
and
you
then we'll
meant
go back.
me.
But
Yeah, circle
essentially,
back to
like,
me.
you have right now in the sky, Jupiter is conjunct the sun. Jupiter's at 5 degrees of Leo. The sun literally just moved into Leo today, or yesterday. So we have the sun at 2 degrees of Leo. So the sun, identity, ego, visibility, Apollo, conjunct Jupiter, expansion, growth in your ninth house of learning and knowledge. Like, yeah,
That's great.
yeah, that's
Ah,
happening for you right
oh
That
now.
my
means
gosh.
if somebody wants to learn about Apollo, Kimmy will be a damn good person to do it because her
I'm here.
Absolutely.
chart reflects.
My
Absolutely,
chart says that
absolutely.
I'm the best teacher for Lord Apollo.
Literally,
I'm
that's
weak.
exactly what it says. And I think also, like, yes, Apollo, but also like Apollo rules over divination, and then you just put out your tarot class. So like
I
that makes sense too. Of like
today.
literally today, right after like this just happened. Like if you did this 2 days ago, the sun would have been in Cancer still. The conjunction would not have been happening. So
And I
like
can get notifications for it too, and I just reposted it.
literally.
That's
Well, that's the
insane.
thing is like we hear about these things and we hear about these shifts, but then like unless we're seeing how it's like actually hitting our chart specifically, like it doesn't always like really track in the same way. But
Hmm.
also I feel like this is such a lovely example of like you didn't need the astrology. You were already
No.
intuitively aligned with your
Yeah.
launch and your knowledge because you're in touch with yourself and your deities and everything. And like the
Ah,
astrology then just like further emphasizes that for you, which is just
I
yeah.
so
love
freaking
when that
It's
cool.
so
happens.
validating. That's
That's
so
my
cool because
favorite
it
way
is
to look
so,
at it. Is
yeah.
like
Yeah.
look back. Like I
Yes.
rarely look at astrology like in the future. I'm always like either in the moment I'm like, oh my fuck, it's literally I'm just like going with it. Like you feel
Same.
so grounded and aligned.
Yeah.
And I think
That
also kind of
exactly.
going back to that first question that we were talking about, like how does someone get into astrology? I think this is like really good if you're like kind of like moving from beginner to intermediate is to like track like how the transits are hitting for you. Like I like to keep a
Yeah.
log of like, like what we talked about with like Persephassa and like my Venus Time Lord, like that's something I would put in there. Or like, if I'm like, oh, Jupiter moved into my second house and I made a bunch of sales, like that would be like something I would put in there. Like just being like, this is how this transit makes sense in my daily life, And that I think really helps you learn how to integrate it into like integrate the magic into the mundane.
That's
And it
yeah.
being a
That's so
transit, if
like
we want to get even more into it, it being a transit alone is Persephone coded. And then you have the Venus of it all is Aphrodite coded. And they literally were worshipped together, is the whole point of
Literally,
Persephassa. Like,
so
that's
cool.
Persephassa
insane.
couldn't be a perfect goddess for you right now.
That's
I
insane. Oh
know.
my gosh, I love it's so freak. It gives me full body chills just like talking about how just things just flow in the ways that it does, even when
Yeah,
we
Hmm.
don't even really recognize it until the
Yeah.
end. And that
it's
like
so
kind
That's
of
cool.
astrology in a nutshell.
yes. God, are we
Wait,
like
so
all
I feel
astrologists?
like you had a second question, Kim.
Yeah.
Yes, but my second question has been surpassed for a more important question.
Mm-hmm.
Does Abby have a stellium in her ninth house?
Oh my
I'm
God.
weak.
Does
We need to
Abby have
figure
a
that
ninth
out.
house stellium? I don't think so.
Do I have any stellium in any
We need to know her
house?
stelliums. That is, I cannot go to sleep
Am
tonight
I
without knowing.
special? Is anything in my
Wait,
chart
no,
say
you
I'm
do.
special? I'm
You
just kidding.
do. You do. We were wrong. You do. You
She
do.
has. Mm,
She does. She has
mm.
so a stellium is three or more planetary planets. It's three or more planets. Some people will consider planetary bodies, but like I go by three or more planets. And so we've got the sun, we've got Venus, and we've got Mercury in her ninth house. So that's a stellium.
I retract my second question and I put a new second question. Do I
Yeah.
have
And
a
can I say
stellium?
mine right after so I don't forget? Okay, good. Number that, and then I have. So when people say I'm a ninth houser, that would be when they have a stellium. And two,
Yeah.
when people say that they are ruled by Mars, they're like an Aries like me. I'd be ruled by Mars, right?
Yes and no. So you are ruled by Mars.
Thank God. I don't like Mars. I don't like Mars.
Well, you
I'm
have
sick of war. I don't want that no more.
I think that Mars, so it's actually really interesting. Like, yes, Mars is aggression and like technically war. But it's something so interesting that a friend of mine and I were discussing is that in a lot of like ancient grimoires, Mars is associated with sorcery. And we were kind of like thinking about like Mars and sorcery and like what Mars sorcery looks like. And immediately for me, I was like, the will. The will is the part of sorcery that is Mars. So I think someone that's very
Wow.
strong willed, both magically and mundanely, like is a Mars ruled person. So
Mm.
back to your question of are you Mars ruled? Yes, you are, because you have your sun in Aries and you have an Aries stellium, but you're also ruled by the sun because your rising is Leo. So some
Okay.
people call it like what's like a concentration in their chart, and then some people go by like the planet that rules their rising sign. I would say that's the more common interpretation of what you
Okay, that
are
makes
ruled.
sense.
So like me and Kimmy with Sag risings would be Jupiterian ruled people.
Hmm.
I didn't
Okay.
know that.
Yeah.
Ruled by the sun. Period.
Yeah, and then you're ruled by the sun. And then, like, also, this is like getting a little bit more technical, but like a lot of times when you're looking at that like chart ruler, so like for you, Abby, like the sun, then you want to then look at where is the sun? And then your sun being high in the chart, which is prominent for the sun, but also in Aries, which is exalted, like that's a very strong sun. So that would like speak to like you having a very strong chart and a very strong rulership. So that kind of
So you're
strengthens
special.
you are special. And it
Mm.
strengthens the like Martian aspect of it as well.
So my second question, do I have
Yes.
stelliums?
Yeah, let's turn off your transits. Where are they? Remove transits. Because we just so when we're looking at a stellium for the people at home, you're
I
just
don't
looking
have
at your
any.
you're just that's not true. Let's get into it. But you're
Okay.
just looking at your natal chart. You're not looking at transits. It's a natal thing, a stellium. So yeah, you are right. Actually, you don't have any stelliums. You do have some concentrations, but like not even really as much as Abby. Like
That means you're equal. That means you're even. You don't
yeah,
have
you're
any
like
too
more you don't
much.
have like a really strong concentration in one energy, which is like it's neither here nor there. Like stelliums are not
It
a
just
good
sounded
or
really
bad thing. They're
cool.
just completely neutral.
Stellium.
Um, but you do have like you've got like your Venus. You have Venus conjunct the midheaven, which is really beautiful. I think that's like a gorgeous, gorgeous thing to have. Like it's really like the way that you are perceived by the masses is just like with a lot of love. Like and like a lot of like Venusian energy. Um there's like a lot of adoration that comes with Venus conjunct the midheaven. So I
Adore
love that for
me.
you. And then you've got Mercury conjunct the sun, and all of these things are like sitting really high in the chart, right? Like they're in the 10th and the 11th house. And so I think all of this really speaks to like you being able to clearly articulate who you are genuinely out in the world, and then that being received really well. And like you being like, the more authentic you are, the more support and adoration that you receive.
Certified yapper.
Gimme, gimme,
Literally.
your Venus is conjunct your midheaven, and my midheaven is in Taurus, which is a Venusian sign.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. You
That's
both have
cool.
Venusian midheaven
Does
situation.
That is
midheaven have
so.
anything to do? What is the midheaven?
So the midheaven is like one time I heard the midheaven explained as like if you were giving a speech to like a room full of people and then someone said what was that person's sign, they would say your midheaven. So you two
Mm.
as podcast hosts, like your midheaven's actually quite prominent because it's like how your listeners are perceiving you, which is really interesting. I
Definitely
also think
Taurus.
that
That's
the
funny as
mid
hell for
another
me.
way that I like think about the midheaven is that like there is a lot of like directional energy towards purpose that's tied to the midheaven. There's like things that like are Similar to what we were talking about with the North Node, but also different of just kind of like what your soul's gravitating towards, what you are gravitating towards doing in this life and being known for in this life is how I like to look at the midheaven.
It's freaking
That makes
amazing.
sense.
Guys, we have to stop. We can do this all day, but we gotta
We
stop.
could. We totally could.
Mhm.
We yap, but we can yap no longer.
We must stop yapping.
For those of us who don't really know where to get in contact with you, if for those of us that would want to schedule a mentorship course, or if there's anything up and coming for you soon, please share and let us know where we can find you.
Totally. So you can find me on Instagram is where I mostly am. My Instagram is emma.witchbrook. My books are open. I have like pretty limited availability for August because I'm going to be at Salem Witch Fest, which is going to be really exciting. And learning a lot there. But I do have availability for August and September if you're interested in getting a reading, or a mentorship session or whatever, like you could reach out to me. And I also just recently posted something about like the different types of sessions that I have and like based off of like what your intention is, what kind of session I recommend. If you just want to hear me yap more, I also have a podcast. It's called Woes of a Witch. It's on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. And yeah, that I think is pretty much it. My deck is still alive and well, Mirror Muse. If you want her, if you need her, she's around. There she is. Should I do a card? Should I end with a card?
Oh my god,
Or
let's end with a
wait,
card.
do you want I feel like you should pull the card and we can interpret together
Oh
because
my
like
gosh.
to like
Okay.
symbolize your tarot class, you know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
absolutely. I did this last time and it was the coolest experience ever because I have found that I am not an oracle girl. I mean, I am. I'm more of a tarot girl,
Mm-hmm.
but your cards have been so just easily accessible for me in my
Oh,
tarot mind.
I'm so
And
glad.
especially in the ways in
And the
which I,
symbolism. There's so much
yes.
symbolism in
Ugh.
every little like
Thank
And
piece
you.
so
of
we've
card.
It's
been
actually
annoying.
not the first time I've heard both that people have found that my deck is accessible, like regardless if like you've ever used a deck before in your life or not, or also that
Mhm.
people don't really like Oracle and they tend to they're
Mm-hmm.
surprised that they like it. So I'm really glad because I feel like when I was creating the deck, I was thinking really specifically about like I was like this is for witches, but also for very regular people who have never
Yes.
interacted with anything. And
Yeah.
like I guess everything in between too, but like some of them I was like this is to like be used in a spell. And then other ones I was like this is for someone who just like is having a bad day and doesn't
And
even know
just
what
needs
magic
that
is.
reminder. Yeah. And just needs to
And
know
this is
that
like
it's
one of the
okay.
only decks I don't need like the booklet for. I love the booklet and I use it, but like if
Yeah.
I'm out on the go and just trying to do it real
I
quick,
wanted that too. Like I wanted the book
it
to be
usually
there if
always
people wanted
matches.
it, but also for there to just be something for people to build on.
Yeah.
Hmm. Structure.
Uh
Oh my
uh
gosh, I've never gotten that one.
For those, and then the
That's
bottom of the
great.
deck is angels. That's hilarious. So I'm gonna do like
Ooh.
the makeup girlies structure. Look at that. Look at that. So for me, honestly, the first indicator that I see is the throne. And this, what resonated, the first thing that resonated was Zeus and the idea of like what we were talking about earlier for Abby of just like understanding like the more masculine energy within her deity worship. But not only that, it reminded me of the Emperor card in tarot of like,
Mm-hmm.
and this sounds so funny, but it's like you, Abby specifically, this feels more resonating or like connecting towards you of like, you don't need a masculine deity to tell you what you
Hmm.
need to do and what you don't need to do. I think it's just, especially for this card, it is a reminder that you have that power in and of yourself. Like you already have that and you already sit in that throne. For the structure card, this also for me
And I think it's so
personally,
funny that I'm getting that because I feel like I sit in my masculine most of the time, but whatever.
you do, but I also want to see that butterfly in the center, and that really reminds me of like the at the end of the day, you can't have one without the other, especially with the feminine
Hmm.
energy sitting right next to it. But this is really just like a reminder of like, yeah, you kind of have that power in and of it. You're like you have that power within and centered, but there's also that kind of responsibility of understanding what discipline looks like for you.
I
Um,
felt it was for me as soon as you pulled it. I was like,
Yeah. Well, I literally just thought about Zeus. But this is a reminder of discipline. This is a reminder of like, I also really love the fluctuation of colors. And for me, intuitively, when I see something like that, like there's such a mix of colors, it shows me that things are like not one size fits all. Of like,
Mhm.
discipline for you may not be the same thing for me. It's not waking up at 10 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock and going for a walk and do it is what helps you feel the most centered in your power and in the
Totally.
growth and expansion that you're supposed to have. Emma,
I
actual
love it.
creator of this deck.
I love it. Well, for me, I mean, I love everything you said, and I think it's so true, especially like the way you're interpreting it for Abby. I think like another thing that comes to my mind is like something we talked a lot about is Saturn, and like Saturn is structure, and like Saturn in Aries, and like this transit we're experiencing, that we're all experiencing in different ways, and like showing how it's showing up for each of you differently. I think like to think of the message a little bit more collectively, I feel like it's kind of like exactly what you said. Like, what does structure look like for you? And like, how can you invite structure in to help you achieve the goals that you have? You know, Aries is
Yeah.
very goal oriented, right? So, like, how can Saturn come in and actually support that rather than hinder that? Because Saturn and Aries can be a difficult placement. So, how can we look to the lessons of Saturn to help us kind of stay on track, and how can we create a foundation for ourselves so that we can expand and grow? Yeah.
That was, oh my God, I'm sweating. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so, so, so
Thank
much,
you
Emma.
guys for having me
This was
again.
amazing.
I
For
love
those,
being here.
but you're part of the podcast. I don't know what you're talking about.
I
Like,
am
we'll see you later. Like, what do you mean?
literally.
Um, uh, for those of you who do not know us or need a quick reminder, we are Calabasas Cultura. You can find us at Calabasas Cultura 1 or at Calabasas Cultura on TikTok, Instagram, all those good things. You can also find us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music or Apple Podcast. And then if you want to share any stories, have any questions, want to share insight or resources, you can email us at calabasascultura@gmail.com. I am Kim,
And I'm Abby.
And I'm Emma.
and this is
Calabasas.
Cultura. Bye, everyone.
Bye.